So one of them did a great job saving my students. And the other one you guys are really not as good. I think that's great because we have an Untitled one. I think an exceptional administrator for Northern Nevada.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Sorry about the delay this morning. I'm going to keep this short and sweet anyway, so I'll have you guys out of here early. For those sitting in the back of the class, I did take a shower this morning, so I don't know why everyone's sitting in the back. Those are for those who are in person. Welcome to those who are in virtual land also. I know we had technical issues. Hopefully you've gotten onto our presentation, and our Rabbi Sarah is going to email you or send you a chat on how to vote. So I appreciate all the efforts this morning. Again, this is a hybrid meeting. So as we know, out in the virtual world, when we were having our meetings, everything was a little wonky, but we're pretty quick to get it resolved. But unfortunately today, we're trying this hybrid method and things just went a little more wonky. So I appreciate both rabbis for helping us with moderating and hosting this annual meeting so we can do this both ways. And then, so again, for those who are here in person, when we get to anything that we have to vote on, which is only our slate, I will be handing out a sheet for each family unit. And remember, it's a family unit that gets a vote, not each person in the family. And I will get those passed around so you guys can actually approve or object to our slate. And then I don't know if I can tell you today what that looks like on our final vote, because we're going to have to get the online votes in. So what else? Again, thanks for those who are here in person. I appreciate it. And I am going to invite up, I'm not sure who's doing Devar Torah. Okay, Rabbi Ben. So I'll invite him up for a Devar Torah.
Thank you, Michael. If I'd known you were going to be short, I would have prepared more words. I limited it to 25 minutes because I thought you would go on for a while. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for participating in this. This is absolutely important. I want to talk to you about one of the most exciting things that we encounter in the Torah. It's something we read about this week, the Shemitah, the 7th year rest for the land. The Torah tells us that just as we have Shabbat ourselves, the land has Shabbat as well, and that every 7th year we are to let the land sit, and we are not supposed to plant anything. We are let the crops grow if they grow, and if we need food, hopefully we have been blessed with abundance in the year before, but we are certainly blessed with friends and neighbors, and we share and we work together, and we make it through that time, allowing the land to heal. It is wonderfully optimistic and idealistic, and it is exactly what we need right now. We need to rethink our abundance, our scarcity, our resources, not only when we think about the world and the environment, but we need to think about the economy and ourselves and our very community. What would it be if we had that sort of spirit that we have during the Shemitah year, when we share with one another, when we look out for one another and fill the gaps that we have in our lives, if we did that with everything, with our spiritual needs, our pastoral needs, our economic needs, everything that we use and need to get through the year, get even through the day, if we could look to our community and know that we would be able to provide for one another and know that if we have something that someone else needs, that it can be freely given. All that we value, we share and we have and we appreciate. It is time to rethink all of these resources that we have. Now, we have a Shabbat of the land and we have Shabbats Shabbat. And hopefully we are now at a place where things are beginning to reopen. And one thing that never really closed was our Shabbat here in the community. We had a few spots where we had to move things around, and we delivered Shabbat from this space, from homes, from the homes of congregants, pretty much everywhere. I was minutes away from doing one on top of a hill somewhere in South Reno one evening. And that has all been because of the generosity and the kindness and the imagination of this community. And as we begin to bring things back, and hopefully can continue to do that without interruption, it is important that we think about it not as though we ceased things, not as though programs stopped, but they were resting, and that we will bring those back as well. Another thing that the Torah reminds us in this portion is that in that 8th year, we are still working off of the generosity and the kindness and the abundance of the previous years, because things don't happen immediately. Crops don't begin to produce right away. And so we are still working on that. We are still enjoying and sharing and providing for one another. And what I hope is that we can continue doing that as we bring more and more things into our community, as we have more to do and more opportunities. And if we do that and continue to do that and make this community, this congregation, this space, one that carries that through, we will have what Rabbi Nina Beth Carden calls enoughness and delight. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Rabbi Ben. Those words speak huge for us, for our community here at Temple Sinai and the wider Jewish community here in Reno and Sparks. So I appreciate those words. Okay, you're good. It's okay. Okay, so President's address. First of all, I want to thank all of our current board members, and when I say your name, if you could please stand so everyone can see you. Tova McGilvray, our Vice President. Jay could not be here with us, but I am sure he's with us in spirit. He's our second VP and membership chair. Terry Levenberg, our CFO, he's there in the back. Marilyn Roberts is with us virtually as she is still recovering from hip surgery. And she's our treasurer. And then we have our members at large currently, Dave Levine, Jen Wolf, and she's, I think, with us virtually, Alexa Foley, and Laura Smith. So I appreciate all your efforts this past year. Thank you. A big round of applause for them. It is a huge task during COVID and during this pandemic to be on this board and to make sure that we continue running as smooth as possible to bring you everything virtually and keep our community going. So appreciate it. I also have to thank all of our committee chairs and committee members for ensuring our continual traditions and activities virtually. And as we start coming back together, coming back to Temple Sinai in our facility and bringing the joy back to our facility. Thank you to the rabbis, as always, for their wonderful, wonderful leadership and making sure that not only to guide us to success here at Temple Sinai, but also spiritually and keeping us going in the right direction. I also wanted to thank Mike Stumbaugh for all his efforts and his work. He is our leader. He is our boss, and when he says jump, we do. And we try to get everything done for him as he has also a tough job. I wanted to also thanks Rabbi Myra and Jeff Gingold for the wonderful Sacred Sinai series this past year. It's been wonderful. Those who have been able to see those virtually, they've been wonderful and bringing much more spirit to our life. Okay, on to just some normal business stuff. Nonprofit security grant, just a quick update. So I've been telling you about this for the last 3 years as we've got the grant and we're moving forward. I'm sure everyone knows that we received a $100,000 nonprofit grant. Over the COVID pandemic period, we've been having struggles getting contractors here to take a look at what we needed done and getting those things approved, but we finally did secure a contractor to get our front doors to our main lobby and the doors to our large social hall replaced. They will be ADA compliant. There will be at least up here a push button for those that need support for the door to be opened in the front lobby, and then they will be secured access. So again, we can control the security a little bit more, but also at the same time become an ADA compliant. So there'll be push bars on the doors going outward. The large social hall and the front doors, those are all being replaced. There only is going to be one set of doors in both of those areas. The other doors will be either open or removed at some point. But we will only have one set of doors for both areas. Yes, the wooden doors will be retained. We will have further discussion on that as this project moves forward. But yes, those will be retained. Also with this, as soon as we get this project done, we will move forward with the upgrades to our security cameras to cover more areas in the building. Inside and out. I want to thank everyone who filled out the security survey that we sent out. Much appreciated. You will see those results sometime this summer when I can compile it all together, and some comments on what the future holds for those comments and those polls. We will be sending out a secondary poll after we finish with the initial security projects that we have in plan. That way I can find out if we've done some of the areas that you've talked about needing to upgrade or to change, and we will get that. At this point in time, there's no changes to the religious school door. We will be upgrading the phone system on that door, but nothing else is going to be changing on that door at this time. It wasn't part of our initial project. It was not, when we had a security evaluation done, that was not a point of interest that we needed to fix at this time. Okay, the next big thing is we have been working the last about 45 to 60 days on a long-term rental agreement for Temple Sinai for our large social hall. We've had the Anglican Church come and talk to us needing some space, and we've been working with them. We have a contract that's probably going to be signed this week, so it's wonderful news. They are congruent with our mission, in case anyone is interested in that. I am sure that's probably one of the biggest questions that's going to pop up. But a very small group, only about 20 people in their group, but they would like to expand and grow. And we're hoping that we can foster that by giving them some space and renting out some space. Not only does it help them, but obviously it helps us with our budget. And I'll let Terry explain that later. They are a great interfaith partner. So hopefully everything will turn out. We're looking at least a year. And then if that all works out, they are looking at least a couple more year lease with us. So any issues, comments, questions? worship and occasional office space is needed, but worship will all be in the large social hall. And if they do need some office space occasionally, that will probably be in either the library or the youth library. Yes, worship will be on Sunday mornings. Mike?
How does it work out if it kind of conflicts with holidays?
So we've already looked at the calendar, and they do know it's in the contract that we do have priority over the areas, and they are definitely willing to work around that process with us. Addie?
Is there any sort of iconography that they're hoping to keep within the temple?
I'll let Rabbi Ben address that, but I'm not, I think he's had more of those conversations with them, but.
So one of the things they will be bringing in is an altar. And what we've discussed with them is that once they are finished with their service, they will cover that up, and it will be pushed out of the way, so it isn't as though if you walk into the social hall, there's a giant cross or pictures of Christian saints or something like that. So they understand that that boundary, and we have laid out that is part of the agreement that will be there. Beyond that, they have not indicated bringing anything else in, and so that's from unless you are a curious type peeking under the covering, you would have no reason or way of knowing that is even on the premises.
They'll also have storage unit, remember?
Yes, they will have they're bringing in a small cabinet, and so they can put things away in there. So any smaller items, including prayer books, hymnals, things like that, will be stored away when not in use.
Can we also repeat the questions from the audience, just so everybody online can hear? Thank you.
I'm assuming that they will have most of their time on using it either on Saturday evening or Sunday. How does that affect the use of the restrooms with Sunday school?
Okay, Mike's question was, while they're in the building on Sunday mornings, how that is going to be, what if there will be any conflict with them using the restrooms? No, we've already made it clear. I mean, they have use of the restrooms. It is shared space. It would just be like any other person using the restroom during that time. But yeah, usually when we have our kids use the restroom during Sinai school, one of the teachers is usually right there at the door and stuff. So we are already taking those cautions before that even happens.
What's the name of the church?
It's the Christ Church Anglican Church, sorry, the Christ Anglican Church. Any other questions online? Okay, once again, I think this is going to be a great partnership, as we and our rabbis always are very involved in with the interfaith community, and we're always interested in helping each other grow and learn. Okay, last, I want to know if anybody on my exec committee wants to comment on anything. No? Okay. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and go through our volunteer appreciation. I probably missed a few folks here, so please add their names to the chat if I have missed anyone, and we'll make sure they get recognized. I have some very amazing folks on my list that have spent some significant time at or for Temple Sinai and associated functions. Aaron Hill, Alexa Foley, Amy Goldberg, Annie Flandreich, Barbara Ochtenberg, Barbara Weinberg, Brigada Aaron, Crystal Rhodes, David Levine, Gail Farrell, Harvey Katz, Heidi Slater, Jane Townley, Jay Goborg, Jeff Gingold, sorry, Jen Wolf, Jill Flandreich, Joan Brickman, Laura Smith, Linda Duffier, Linda Goldman, Marilyn Bowie, Marilyn Roberts, Maureen Leschendock, Michael Cohen, Michael Gordon, Mike Medvin, Pam Brandman, Rabbi Benjamin, Rabbi Myra, Rabbi Sarah, Rick Michelson, Rob Dickerson, Sandra Goodman, Steve Pansky, Talia Guzman, Terry Levenberg, Tova McGilvray, and Tracy Bartlett. So a round of applause for all those great volunteers. It takes an army to keep us going, and it takes a lot of volunteers to keep us going for what we need. Rabbi Sarah, any additionals in the comments? Steve Weidman. Again, if I missed anyone, my apologies. Trying to keep it all straight sometimes is not that easy, especially with that many volunteers, so I appreciate it. Okay, next I am going to invite Tova McGilvray up to talk about life and legacy.
Hi, friends. Thank you so much for joining us today, both in person and virtually. Hi there. So if you attended the mid-year congregation meeting, this is going to look a little familiar, but we, with the help of Jewish Nevada, we are launching a life and legacy campaign for Temple Sinai. And this is to create a lasting endowment for Temple Sinai, which is something that has been in discussion on and off for several years and that we've never successfully achieved. Jewish Nevada, as some of you may know, largely had a presence in Southern Nevada. And this past year, they've made a commitment to Northern Nevada. I think a lot of us have felt their presence immediately with some beautiful events and resources. And this is one of the resources that they've extended to us. So this program has existed in Southern Nevada, and they brought the training and the beautiful materials. We have the banner in the front lobby that we hope to move around so it doesn't fade into the background, and just to launch this campaign and build enthusiasm for it. So let's see what I got. Okay. Why participate in life and legacy giving? So I'm here to give the pathos, the emotional plea to you. So community, when we're talking about creating a lasting endowment, we're talking about making sure that the community and sense of togetherness and our Jewish identity here in Reno, Nevada is going to last for years to come. We have our sense of shared accomplishments. Next picture. So the photo here, I hope that you can all see it from streaming. This is a snippet from our Faces of Sinai. Our volunteers here and our committees put on some wonderful projects. And for myself, I can say very personally that my involvement in Temple Sinai and the projects that I get to do here provide my life with a sense of purpose, and the socialization and everything that we get to do. I've enhanced my leadership skills by being here. It's truly a valuable organization that I get so much from, and this program is intent to see that continue on. Joyous song for me is one big reason of why I think that ensuring the legacy of Temple Sinai is important. Our musical tradition is extraordinary. There's nothing else like it. This is a picture of Toby leading, kind of prepping for some of our Shabbat Unplugged, which will be an ongoing program next year. And I mean, you can just go on and on about Jewish music. It means so much to me. Grounding routines. So this would be, for me, our weekly Shabbat, as well as our annual religious holidays, as well as how we celebrate life events together. When we're talking about creating an endowment for Temple Sinai, this is really about ensuring the strength of a Jewish presence for our daily lives here in Northern Nevada that without our congregations otherwise might not exist. Teaching our children about our Jewish heritage and how to be citizens of the world, particularly citizens that do stem from what would otherwise be in a minority perspective, and the compassion and consideration that is involved in. So this is a picture. You can see Jeff Gingold in the picture, and Mariana, and other parents who I know by name, I know by face, but their names always escape me. I chose this picture because there's really something special about the pride that we teach our children about being a Jew, especially in a place where we might not get that representation anywhere else. And we as adults get to continue to learn. The Sacred Sinai program was just such a stunning example this year of adult Jewish education that we hope to expand upon. And again, the endowment is about not just a single grant or a single donation that made a program possible, but creating a fund that over time will continue to feed this programming. And simply put, the support that we provide each other. We're here today. Some of us are masked, most of us are not. And this is an extraordinary feat for us even to be together. And for anybody who had some technical difficulties this morning, I hope that we can all simply celebrate what a unique opportunity this is to have our first hybrid meeting with people back in the synagogue for these moments. And we have all seen each other through one of the toughest 2-year periods that many of us have ever endured. And that's simply as a community. That's not even touching upon the personal obstacles that many of us go through in our lives where we find solace and strength in this Jewish community. And that's what the Life and Legacy program is really supporting and making sure that this is here, not just for ourselves and our future needs, but our families going forward. L'Ador Vador, from generation to generation. So we hope that you can all participate in Life and Legacy giving. And this says, demonstrate your love, devotion, and connection to our congregation, our community, and our future by making a legacy gift today. So that's the emotional plea. Let's talk a little bit more about what a legacy gift might actually look like in application. So some of the mechanisms that you can use to make a legacy gift are wills in living trust. So if you have a family will or if you created a living trust, you can mention Temple Sinai Reno as a beneficiary. One thing I do want to jump back on, I know we've said that this program is largely structured and that the resources have come through Jewish Nevada. The donation, the legacy gift, goes directly to Temple Sinai. So Jewish Nevada has kind of some administrative roles in this, but this is not a gift that would go to the greater Jewish Nevada. This is specifically earmarked for Jewish Nevada or another Jewish organization that you might wish to support if you want to spread your love around. So you can make a monetary gift or gift a particular asset, perhaps a piece of property that you might have in your will and living trust. You can make Temple Sinai a beneficiary in your life insurance policy and IRA charitable rollover. So if you are eligible, you can make IRA assets directly benefit Temple Sinai. This can also have some tax benefits for your family going forward. We're going to take some questions. I'm going to have Terry join me towards the end of this to field hopefully some specific questions that people might have. And we'll be available afterwards for additional questions, but you guys ask great questions and I would love for everybody to get to benefit from the answers. Some things that we have heard is, yes, a required minimum distribution can be considered a life and legacy gift. Of course, required minimum distributions do still have some tax consequences. So working with your IRA professional to get that as a qualified charitable donation. I'm peeking at Dave Levine, hoping he's going to give me some thumbs up on this alphabet soup. So if you have concerns about tax consequences of such a gift, we would be happy to talk to you and help point you in some right directions. Of course, always consult your own financial professional or a tax consultant for your unique situations. And these gifts can be made while you are still alive. That was a frequently asked question that I got. So let's see what else I have. Anyone can create a legacy gift. So one of the things that's really important in this, I think legacy giving oftentimes comes up as something that's only available to the very wealthy. And one of the unique parts of this program is that we are open to a legacy gift of any type, of any amount. And this really is about speaking to your values and allowing what you've accumulated in your life to carry on for yourself and for your community going forward, and not because you're an extraordinarily wealthy person who's going to put your name on a building. This program is really designed to open up this mechanism of supporting your values and your community going forward to everybody. And I would also like to share that existing planned gifts would absolutely qualify under this type of programming. So if you are somebody who has already worked out with your financial professionals and your trust attorney for Temple Sinai to be remembered in your plans, in your legacy plans, we would love to know about a gift that you already have in place, because this does provide through Jewish Nevada some benefit for us. I don't know if that's the last one. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about why we would love to know about your existing plans and how the relationship with Jewish Nevada is going to benefit us as well. I'm going to leave my contact information up, and so anybody who's streaming from home can take that down to get a hold of me, and anybody who's here, maybe take a camera phone photo of it, and I will be available at the end of this meeting to start pulling some calendars and making some dates to talk to people. One of the benefits of this program, and that I didn't want to oversell, but it should be mentioned, in addition to the creation of a life and legacy endowment itself, is that Jewish Nevada is offering us a grant opportunity in this as well. So if we can get 24 congregants to make a commitment, and the commitment we have, and I'll have this available for review, this is what we call a letter of intent. So this is a non-binding document. It's not a legal document. You're not required to express a dollar amount or how you might be making your donation. It's simply saying, this is something that I intend to do, and I would love to have a further conversation about it. And that intent, that pledge, as many of us know, is really one of the big gateway steps from taking something from intention to action. And that's a moment, that's a belief that we're hoping to codify through this process. If we can get 24 participants to commit to a letter of intent over the course of the next year and a half, we have the opportunity to raise, I believe, up to $10,000 in grant funds from Jewish Nevada. So for those of you who I continue to mention have an existing legacy plan in place, we would love to help us get a head start on some grant funding by perhaps signing a letter of intent. And you wouldn't have to make any changes about anything that you've already done. Just adding this letter to this programming for us can help give us some financial benefits that we would love to use for the benefit of the congregation. This would be a wonderful time for questions. Dave, please.
I understand about Jewish Nevada grant, but out of each donation, what's their cut?
It is my understanding that so it's the question, to repeat the question for anyone who needs to hear it. We were asked what the cut, if any, would be from Jewish Nevada that they take for life and legacy giving. And my understanding is absolutely zero. Jewish Nevada has zero earmarks, zero intention to siphon off any life and legacy funds from this program to their own benefit. And they are committed to our congregation, among other congregations in the area that they are working with, to set up our own endowment funds. Yes, please.
Does a couple count as 2 commitments or 1?
Does a couple count as 2 commitments or 1? I suppose that would depend on how the couple handles their finances. So I've seen couples where, each partner has their own life trust, or each partner has their own separate IRA account that they may handle independently, in which case those would count as 2 separate letters. However, if this was a combined situation, perhaps a family trust or a single IRA account where the partners both received beneficiary status, that would probably apply as a single account. And we would love to chat with you a little bit more about your specific situation if that's a concern.
So is this intended to be an endowment? And in my mind, what that means is creating a principal and then the interest would be, the temple would profit from the interest only? Or is this something that, to be monetized as needed and not accumulated?
That is a wonderful question, Gail, that I did have to get some clarification on myself earlier in the year. So the question is this intended to be an endowment fund where you have a principal balance that would then earn interest or dividends should it be invested? Or is it going to simplify and say kind of its own sort of donation to the congregation that becomes a restricted fund? The purpose of this is to start a true endowment fund. So something where there would be a principal balance, earning interest, perhaps earning dividends, and that the principal, for the most part, remains untouched. Of course, the board in a time of financial need could choose to draw from the endowment fund. But to make the distinction, it's not specifically a donation that would enhance that immediate next year's budget. This would become its own fund that would continue to grow and to serve Temple Sinai. Yes, Rabbi. Not as many as I should. So I am perfectly willing to kind of admit where I've had some shortcomings in this. I had to get a lot of training to get going, and these are some challenging conversations to start. So I know that I have 3 in the bank. Woo! I have probably some loose commitments. I need to firm them up. I've had conversations with 3 additional families, and then probably another 4 people on top of that where we've sort of said, oh, we really should make a date and talk. And I'm remiss in not having followed up on some of those yet. I know I owe you some phone calls. We need to make a date to schedule. We need a lunch date. And so part of being willing to stand up here today in front of the congregational meeting was to solidify my commitment as well to double down on some efforts. Yes, please.
Who's going to manage the money? Like, who would manage the money?
That's a great question. Terry, can I field that one to you? The question is, who is going to manage the fund? I believe it becomes a restricted fund within Temple Sinai as part of our other investments, but I'm going to bring up our CFO to maybe answer that more specifically.
So this is going to be run and administered by Jewish Nevada. So they already have existing funds. There are some minor operating expenses. I understand they're very nominal. You wouldn't even see them come out of the accounts. This is, again, long-term giving. If you wanted to make a gift that would benefit the temple in a current calendar year or a current fiscal year, this is not the right path. This is for long-term legacy for the perpetuation of Temple Sinai for decades and longer. I hope that helps.
Michael.
Do you have a target amount? And considering that some of these gifts are when a person dies or like a piece of property, how do you intend to track and potentially publicize progress towards that amount?
Thank you. So the question was, do we have a target amount, and then a kind of part B question about tracking and publicizing this type of donation. So first, the question of a target amount, the answer is no. At this moment, we've never had an endowment fund. So this is open to people who would like to make a gift of any type. We don't have a particular goal. If anything, the goal is the number of letters of intent, and that would be for the purpose of grant funding. If we fall short of it, we fall short. Like that, that's just its own separate thing. Aside from a grant benefit, an endowment fund for the support of Temple Sinai is its own worthy goal, and that's truly what the focus is. So there is no particular goal. This is not a fundraising campaign. This is truly a long-term effort that we hope to develop and integrate into the culture of Temple Sinai going forward. We do intend to create a Temple Sinai society around this type of giving. So when you make your gift, you can specify if you want it to be anonymous or not. So if publicity is not something that you are interested in, we can absolutely keep the giving anonymous. If you would like to share that you've made a legacy gift in order to encourage others in the community to follow your example, we do intend to start to kind of include our Temple Sinai Society members at the end of newsletters and thank them at the high holy days, and a particular annual event each year where we're going to honor and recognize our society giving members. As for the implementation, this is a process. So the letter of intent is simply, again, getting someone in their heart of hearts, down their arm to the end of a pen to say, I'm willing to make a long-term gift to Temple Sinai. And then starts the work of talking about it, getting some resources from us to share with your financial people, and really much in the same way that people have been leaving gifts for their congregations for generations, giving you support in working with your own financial planner in your life to firm up this gift and make it a solid, actionable plan.
We got a question about what are the restrictions on use for this endowment? I think that's a fair question.
That might be a fair question.
So the question was, what are the restrictions on use? And I'll follow up a little bit on the second part of Michael's question about how to track it. So the board will get quarterly statements, reports on the fund, and we will share it with the congregation probably at least semi-annually. And it would be something that we would highlight in our annual presentation as well. Restrictions on use, that's going to be something that we have to decide as the fund gets established. Since there are no current endowment gifts, there is no current target for the use of funds. So that would be something the board, the executive committee initially, and then the board, and probably we'd send it to the full congregation for a vote once we have the fund established as to how the congregation will make use of the funds and the annuity portion of it, the dividends and interest that it produces on an annual basis. So great question. We don't have a solid answer for it now because we're still in the formation process.
One other thing I will want to add to that, again, not being intimate yet with the implementation portion of that, but in some of the trainings I did through Jewish Nevada for this program, they did mention that somebody who was making a gift, if you felt strongly that your endowment gift should support a particular fund, such as Jewish music, that they had their tracking mechanism had the ability to make that possible. So haven't seen it yet, but I have been told that it exists. Yeah, okay, I think Addie and then Mike.
Just real quick, the background that hasn't been mentioned is this is actually run through the Grimmspoon Foundation, and all federations are part of it. So a lot of questions could be answered by going to jewishlifeandlegacy.org, which is the master website, and there's a big long about and FAQ section.
Thank you so much, Addie. And then on the back table, I do have some beautiful brochures that if this is something that you would like to learn a little bit more about, and it includes some of that resource information for how to learn more about the foundation and its endowment program that it's supported for other congregations, please feel to grab one. And plus this also then goes on your kitchen counter, and it's a reminder for you to call me and set up an appointment so we can chat more about this. So Mike, I believe you had a question.
Well, part of the question was just answered, but who is the owner of the endowment?
The question is, who is the owner of the endowment, Terry?
That's correct. I'm assuming it's going to be the organization that you mentioned rather than Temple Sinai.
That's correct. So we would be the beneficiary of the restricted fund within the broader national organization's endowment. And within the fund that's specific to Temple Sinai in Reno, Nevada, we would have further sub funds or general ledger accounts for specific line item use as we decide what those are.
All of this could be free.
It's free to Temple Sinai. There is no cost to Temple Sinai. There is an administrative cost from the fund itself for assets that are donated into the fund. There is an administrative charge for this. But no, there is no cost to actually make a contribution or for it to be open for our benefit. Alexa had a question here, and then we'll go to online.
I think you partially answered. I was wondering if it's managed by Jewish Nevada, but is that, a volunteer person, an office person, or a wealth management professional? But this is much larger parent company than I understood. So I think that kind of answers that there's a professional group taking care of it.
So the question was, who's managing the funds? Is it Jewish Nevada? And to Addie's point, it is the larger foundation. It is professionally managed. And that's what helps keeps costs as low as they are. It's a very large endowment nationally. So costs are able to be spread across all the individual communities that participate in the Life and Legacy.
Online and then Gail.
There was a question about, God forbid, something happens to Temple Sinai, where does the money go? in the restricted fund?
Which would probably be a question that we would have to answer for all of our funds and our budgeting as well. Oh, I'm so sorry. So the question for everybody's benefit was, God forbid, if something should happen to Temple Sinai, what would happen to these funds? Which truly would be a question for all of our financial concerns, our restricted funds, our budget, our investments. I don't think I know what that.
I don't think we have current contingency plans for that.
Yeah, I don't know that. I would have to admit that I do not know what our designated survivor plan is.
Part of the goal of this is to perpetuate Temple Sinai for longer, so.
So Tova, one of the things to mention is that since it is managed through the Harold Grinspan Foundation, that they probably have policies for those sorts of contingencies.
Well, it would probably be more specific to David Lyon's point to the charter of Temple Sinai and how we've set up our charter and constitution. That would determine where. So there is a charter and a constitution for Temple Sinai. So there's probably some bylaw that I'm not familiar with yet, and I should learn what that is as the financial officer. But that would determine where it goes more so than the foundation. The foundation might have contingencies, but it'll be up to the local community, the local organization. So us, Temple Sinai.
Thank you. Thank you. Any thought-provoking questions, Ms. Gail?
Yeah. So two questions. The grant, the potential grant, is that for a specific need, a specific use? Second question. Go ahead.
Oh, the first question was, so this potential grant funding that we could get from Jewish Nevada by securing 24 letters of intent, is that for a specific use? And at this time, no, we have the ability to just add that straight to our Temple Sinai budget and use that as needed.
Also, so if this legacy fund is part of a larger fund, we must have a much larger fund. If it's national, we must have opportunities for some greater returns than if it was just our little, which, or even Nevada's fund. Is that true?
So the question was potential returns, and if we're associated with a larger fund, would performance be greater? I mean, to be honest, yes, you have access to maybe private equity and other things that you wouldn't have as a small initial $10,000 grant or something along those lines. Honestly, returns, of course, vary. Nothing's going to be guaranteed, as with all investments. But yes, in theory, you should be able to have more control over where your assets are located within the investment. And because it's professionally managed with low fees, yes, we should have probably decent returns over time. That would be the intent.
Okay, one more pass for a burning question. I will certainly be available to continue to hear more questions. And if I don't know the answer, I would love to find that answer out for you. For those of you who are in person today, I strongly encourage you on your way out, if this is something you want to know more about, to at least, you don't have to take a letter of intent, but if you'd like to peruse one and just sort of see what this letter looks like, again, you'll find that it is very non-intimidating, non-binding. Somebody who I met with who looked at it says, oh, it's not asking me for a dollar amount at all. No, it is not. This is truly, again, just trying to bridge the gap between thought and action as a first step towards creating this fund for us. Thank you so much for everybody who asked wonderful questions today so that we could hear it with everybody. And thank you all for making this just such a wonderful community to be a part of and making this my home.
Oh, yeah. Are we doing comments at the end? Or are we wrapping up comments on it?
If it's a comment towards this, we can do it now. If it's not, at the end.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Tova. Thank you, Terry, for helping with that presentation and the answers. Thank you all for such wonderful questions and concerns. I am glad we spent more time on this than my president's report, because this is much, much more important. So, and thank you for those virtually who had questions. So the next thing up is our election of members to the Board of Trustees. Every other year, we do just a 5 members at large positions. And so that's where we are this year. Everybody on there is an incumbent except for JoJo. So if JoJo would like to stand up for a second. Welcome, JoJo. JoJo has made it to our slate, and we need, I think it was 28 family units. Yeah, and that doesn't count who's in here. So I believe we're good on the quorum. What I'm going to do is we will pass around these slate sheets and some pens. On our slate, what we do is we always just approve or object to the slate as given, not individuals. So give Terry a moment to pass that around. Those virtually, Rabbi Sarah has given you instructions on how to vote online. Did you have a question, Dave?
Over this little wall, we'll donate to property. Please make them, if someone's interested in donating a piece of property, please make them within the state. Unincumbents from these. Last piece we had donated something over 7 years to sell. That came not anywhere near.
So Dave had a comment. If you are going to donate land, that it needs to be done within the state of Nevada, correct, Dave? Yeah, should be. It's much easier, but if you don't and you have concerns or need more advice on that, how to do that, I'm sure we can find someone, if you do have land outside of Nevada, how to make that a little bit easier for our congregation moving forward. So I'll give everyone a couple minutes to do your voting, and Tova is walking around to pick up those slips. Again, just because of our online votes, I'm not going to have the approval or denial of our slate at this moment in time, but what we will do is we will get that announced on our next weekly to make sure everyone is aware of what happened. So, yes, board members get to vote too. Okay, so I appreciate everyone's time on that. And we're still going to give it a couple more minutes so we get our online votes done. Okay, so while votes are still coming in, I was reminded to let everyone know that next Sunday, June 22nd, we are doing a weed pulling day. So do not know what the weather is going to be like. It could be snowing, it could be 100 degrees or anywhere in between. So, you know, just dress comfortably if you can and come help. Even if we get 15 minutes, that's 15 weeds or whatever. Every little bit helps as you've those in person have walked in. Our weeds grow faster than we can grow. So any help is much appreciated. I've been told it's easy pulling, but I'm not sure about that. So next Sunday, May 22nd. My goats are not. They are too spoiled. And I got 4 of them. Are we good, Rabbi Sarah? Yes, okay. So I've been given the all clear to move ahead. Next, I'd like to invite up our CFO, Terry Levenberg, to talk about our budget and our current situation and our upcoming budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody, for voting and for participating. So this is our actual numbers through April 30th of our fiscal year, which of course ends the end of June. So we've got May, which we're in, and then June to go. So right now, these are our numbers, the revenue and expense and a net surplus or deficit. Right now, we are showing a surplus. If you're wondering about how many member units, this is 156 voting member units or households right now at Temple Sinai out of 171 total. That larger number includes shared, honorary, or comped family units. So this is now what we are projecting for May and June. So the first box we have up here are the actual. We have May and June projected. We usually don't have too much revenue in these months as we collect our membership dues throughout the year. We have fixed expenses, they don't go away. So we're showing a deficit for those 2 months of just under $31,000. So our total projected through the end of June is a deficit of about $5,800. For those of you who pay attention to this and were at the last semi-annual or remember from last year, we had projected a $15,000 roughly deficit. So this is better by about $9,200. That's a good thing. We were about $10,000 higher in expenses than we had projected, but about $30,000 higher in income and revenue. So the net to the temple was pretty good. Again, we are a nonprofit. We're not going to have huge surpluses. If so, great. We're doing something right, but deficits are kind of something we should expect, and it's our job to try and keep them to a minimum. We can go to the next slide. So this is our projected budget for the fiscal year 2022 through 23, which again is July through June. So this is all available online as well. You can take a few minutes to look at it. I just want to show most of our expenses are pretty fixed. Revenues can, of course, fluctuate. So the bottom line number is a deficit projection of about $28,000 for the coming fiscal year, coming out of a tough 2-year COVID pandemic where everything was tough for many families. This is not a surprising number. To what Michael was talking about earlier with the Anglican Church potentially renting from us, that will help this bottom line number by a current estimates of about $10,000 for the year, bringing our deficit to just about $18,000 even projected deficit for the fiscal, fiscal year 22-23. That's all I have. Yes, Michael.
So I'm pretty new. This is my first AGM, so please forgive these questions. Do we have a reserve? And how big is it?
So the question is, do we have a reserve and how big is it? We have several restricted funds that are earmarked for certain purposes. We have an emergency fund that was only started 2 years ago. I think it was the year before COVID. So this is 3 years we've had it. So it went from zero to about $20,000 in just less than 3 years. We have some reserve funds for other purposes like property taxes, building and maintenance, things like that. We do have reserves. I don't have the total numbers in front of us, but anything that is in those reserves is not eligible to go to annual expenses unless they are already earmarked. So these are numbers that will be spent in the fiscal year, and we have to find a way to raise them in the fiscal year as well. Online question?
We're just wondering why revenue is 10% less than in current year.
I believe that's a philanthropy omission intentionally. We weren't sure what our philanthropy estimates would be. So that would probably be what the primary missing 10% of income would be. Because of COVID, we've had that number decrease over the last 2 years. So we could have estimated a low number. And for this purpose, it was just omitted.
5,800 in the hole or 28,000?
We are 5,800 in the hole for fiscal year we are currently in, 21-22. And then we are projecting a $28,000 deficit for the upcoming fiscal year. Oh, the question was, what is our deficit? Is it 5,800 or 28,000? And the answer is both.
In practice, how do you actually cover five-figure deficits?
So the question was, in practice, how do we cover five-figure deficits? Well, that's part of why we have these meetings, is hopefully members of the congregation can contribute above those. There's very few ways we can cut most of these expenses. There may be additional funds raised during high holy days. Our Passover was a success, and we actually were net positive for, I believe, the first time. I'm sorry, Passover is generally a positive number, but
I mean, our profit margin over our cost was so percentage-wise low, but we wanted to make it as close. I mean, Mike and I agreed ahead of time we were gonna lose money, get more people into the saver. We ended up making $2,000.
It's not a fundraiser.
right, it's not a fundraiser. So these are things we'll look at as a board, is do we need to have fundraisers? And this is part of why Life and Legacy is important. If we have an endowment fund that can cover some of the shortfall on an annual basis as it grows. And we do rely, of course, on our congregation. Yes, we have another online question.
So actually, just a comment that we also have 15 families who are in arrears right now, so that's why our deficit is that 5,800 as well. So pay attention to your invoices.
There you go. Thank you, Rabbi Sarah. So there are 15 families in arrears. You may be getting an email from me in the next couple of days if that's the case. That's part of our deficit for last fiscal year. And when we do have family units that are in arrears, we do generally not include them for future revenues, as they've proven they're not reliable at this time. We can't count on that particular income for the coming year. Yes.
I don't know if this is too personal or not, but how did the rabbis create revenue? I mean, is that?
Well, there's an expense line for the question was, how do the rabbis create revenue? We pay our rabbis, and we're very thankful that they're here, but they do not create revenue. That is why there is a dash there. There's no revenue actually generated. The rabbis are not fundraising for us. Oh, that's the Rabbi Compensation Fund, which some members have promised money to in advance for that specific purpose. So that's a commitment we receive from congregants to fund the rabbi's salary. Yes, online.
And the same thing for Jewish practice, for example, is
Correct, or those are things where we have separate memberships. Jewish practice was another question for the revenue number. Yes, there either are fundraisers held for that, or there's revenue coming in for conversions, etc. Yes, online.
So online, they were wondering, 156 member units yields 1025 per member unit. What are the suggested membership levels at this point? I think it's 1,800, 550, and then 36 for students, right?
That's correct. So Rabbi Sarah has the numbers. So we have members at all different levels of giving. And again, because of the tough 2 years we've been through, there have been some missed payments, there have been some reductions of membership dues. We have had some families move away or stop being part of Temple Sinai as they could not come to services. So there are 3 levels. There's the entry level, there's a student level, and then we have our more kind of general good standing members, sustaining membership level. If Jay was here, he's not here, but he has all those figures in front of him or knows them off the top of his head. Rabbi Sarah's got them and presenting them, so thank you.
not exactly budgetary, but as we pull out of this pandemic, God willing, are we making efforts to reach out to broader families? You know, everybody sort of squished in for these 2 years. It's maybe now is more of an expansionary time and reaching out to folks and trying to increase the membership with sort of post-COVID argument.
So the question was whether we are going to be in any sort of an expansionary mode. We're always trying to do that is the short answer. We're always looking for other families who want to join. Rabbis are very active in conversions and being interfaith in the community. So we are thinking about, Dave had a proposal that we redo our brochure and try to add some awareness. We are looking for maybe some more regular sponsors to our community as well, from local businesses, corporations, et cetera. That's always something we're doing. We don't have a specific board function right now that is fundraising for our annual budgets, for shortfalls, things like that. That's something we could discuss, but to date, we have not had that position or that role. Alexa?
I really don't have a question. I just have kind of a basic comment for our entire congregation. I know that even actually before I was an at-large member on the board, I have heard little rumors and rumblings of people, families saying, well, it's COVID. I can't come to the synagogue. I'm not donating, or there's not a membership due to pay for. And I just want everybody to really look at this, because there is no presence in Reno without our synagogue. And our synagogue does more than just provide a seat here when it's not COVID. When it is COVID, our rabbis were out everywhere. They were doing things with the family, with the Sinai school.
Alexa, do you want to say this all into the mic?
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Sorry. Big mouth Foley here. But I've worked on big regional committees, and I just wanted to say, before I was a member on the board, I had heard the rumblings from many different directions of people saying, hey, it's COVID. I can't come into the synagogue. I'm not donating. What are my membership fees going to if I can't be a member in person? Things aren't happening. And for anybody, and let's please exclude people who lost their jobs and don't have a paycheck coming in. We do not have a presence in Reno if we do not have a synagogue. When the synagogue was closed due to a worldwide pandemic that was not started here against anyone personally, Sinai school was happening online. The rabbis had people drop off items at people's homes to be a part of Sinai school. The rabbis were running in every possible direction to talk to people, check on people, deliver donated items or donated funds. This synagogue was being as active as possible during the pandemic. But if you look at these numbers, you know, your membership dues do not just go to making sure this blue chair is very comfortable and intact for you to come in and sit down on. This synagogue is a community, it's a community entity. And all of these things that happen for all of us, including the Jews who are not members, maybe one day they will, but the most important thing is that they have a place to come home to when they have that need. These numbers are hardline numbers. None of this is exorbitant. And I just want to make an appeal to everybody who has ever had those thoughts or actually did hold back funds during the pandemic. We're on a shoestring budget here. An enormous amount of things happened even when we had less contributing. So please remember, this synagogue is not just about coming to Shabbat and sitting in a nice, comfortable blue chair. We really do need to take all of this seriously. And some people don't have the same budget they used to, but it's that old thing of, do you have $5? Because look at what it goes to.
And I'll piggyback one last comment on that. Most of these costs are fixed year in and year out, whether or not we are open for in-person services. So during the pandemic, this has all been happening behind the scenes. Most of these expenses were still being generated and paid out by the temple. And so, yes, our revenue did suffer, and that's why we're looking at a bit of a larger than usual projected deficit for the upcoming year. So yes, if your situation has changed as we're exiting, hopefully, this pandemic, please get in touch with myself, Jay Goldberg, or Marilyn to discuss other options.
Okay, thank you very much, Terry. Thank you for all those wonderful questions about our budget. And again, I concur with all the comments and thank you, Alexa, for adding on to that. Just remember, sometimes we have to spend money to make money sometimes. So just remember that some of the things that we have done this past year with our lighting, changing it all over to LED lighting. Hopefully, you know, it's not going to be an instant impact on our energy bill, but as we move along, we're hoping to get a little bit savings off of that. Our solar panels haven't been working efficiently. We're looking at a way to get a new inverter and saving much more money on electricity by doing that. So we do have some cost saving measures coming up that we are trying to institute. Again, we're going to have to spend money to make that money, to make that up. So more things to come. Now we're into any member comments or issues. Dave.
Very quick, this is not a binding vote or anything. We're talking about making a new brochure for the temple. I like a quick idea of not binding on anybody. How many would not mind seeing advertising in that brochure?
So Dave's question is, we brought up the comment that we are looking at making a new brochure for Temple Sinai. He wants to know if anyone has any issues really to advertising and making that a little bit more vibrant as we go along. To profit, yeah.
There will be a brochure to advertise Temple Sinai.
There's going to be a new Temple Sinai brochure.
Right, and inside that brochure, there will be advertising for businesses.
Yes.
Yep.
Does anybody object to that?
Is there any objection to advertising? So Dave said we're doing a new pamphlet for Temple Sinai. Within that, we'd like to advertise as a way to set some profits going forward. Does anyone have any objections to us advertising on a brochure for outside companies?
That's not a clear explanation. It's not us advertising, it's us soliciting.
Us soliciting, I'm sorry.
All right, I'll try, we'll see how many different ways we can try to muddle through this. So working on this wonderful new brochure, so when we go out into the community, we can show people what we're about and what we do. One way that we can generate a little bit of extra money is open up this brochure to businesses in the community where they can buy a small little ad, say, for example, Walton's Funeral Home, which is one of the funeral homes we work with most often. They may want to take a little space at the bottom and they will pay to have a little bit that says Walton's Funeral Home. So when people are reading about Temple Sinai and all that we do, there will be this little paid ad from Walton's at the bottom. And the question is, would anyone be opposed to opening up our brochure to having some of these outside ads?
Comment.
Yes, Gail.
Not an objection. When we used to have print things that we would get in our home, like 100 years ago, when we did that, we used to do that. We used to have advertising.
Yes.
20,000 last time we did it.
I'm sorry, how much was that?
We
You said?
made almost 20,000 the year we did it for Ethel.
So previously this has been done and has generated around $20,000. So great potential for adding some money.
We have somebody online who said that they don't think it would be appropriate.
Okay,
I have a question.
Michael, please.
How you decide what kind of businesses would be appropriate to put in the brochure? Like Jewish funeral home for Jewish services makes sense. Like kosher restaurant or bagel shop, obviously so. But like how do you draw the line around what is appropriate to put in and what is not?
I think so. The comment was that we would need to have some sort of way of deciding what would be an appropriate ad if we were to go forward with this. What would be appropriate and what would not? I'm happy to say that I don't think I have to make that determination, but absolutely figuring out a way to determine which sorts of businesses and ads are consistent with our purpose and mission as a synagogue would be part of that conversation. I'm going to start with Tova and then we'll go to the back.
So just airing this out as, again, this was just a proposed, an informal survey of how people feel about opening up advertisements within our brochure. So a first impression thought for me would be part of what we've talked about in our redesign for a brochure was to create something more timeless than some previous items have been in the past. For example, creating a more timeless brochure. So for example, trying to give committees or board positions who may have their contact information in said brochure a Temple Sinai email address rather than an individual person's personal email address, so that as committee leadership changes hands over the years, we're not stuck with a brochure that is going to become obsolete or irrelevant in the contact information. And I do maybe have a similar concern for companies advertising, that as their ownership or contact information changes, does that, render what's supposed to be a more timeless printed product a little bit more obsolete, a little faster? That was just a question.
I think my thought on it. I think my thought on it is that if we're doing a brochure for the synagogue to advertise the synagogue, there's an implicit sort of endorsement of any advertising that we put in there. So for example, Jewish funeral, anything that's like Jewish specific makes kind of sense, but like lawyers and real estate agents, even if they happen to be like Jews, I'm less comfortable with. So, yeah. Do you want to?
Rabbi Myra would also like everyone to know that we used to have that in the bulletin, but we never had it in a brochure.
What about, just to brainstorm as you guys are taking all this information back, what about an advertising insert? And directly related to membership or Jewish causes? An insert that is not part of the actual brochure.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, also like to your comment about like lawyers and things like that, we have a lot of people that are in the general Jewish community that are lawyers, that are professionals in other fields. And I think that would be a very appropriate place for them to advertise. Honestly, as long as they're, morally, ethically, like practicing within, what we reflect our values. I don't really see an issue with that. I think if they were reflecting values that were outside of what we want to endorse, then it would be an issue. Yeah.
I grew up in a synagogue in LA that is really, really big. And one of the things that was always there was that in the everybody's phone numbers, the directory, there was people's individual businesses after their names. So that was, this is internal, everybody can see it. And we also did calendars and things that had advertisement on them. I personally would not have an issue with advertisement in the bulletin, but a lot of people would, and that may be a good sidestep.
One note from a membership perspective, I know that we have discussed, because the membership committee, of which if anybody is excited to join and get involved in helping boost membership, I'm sure they are looking for new volunteers. But we have discussed that in the next reiteration of our directory, trying to include some sort of occupational glossary or occupational note with members, so that as you need a service, one of your first resources can be opening your congregational directory and seeing if there's a fellow congregant who provides that service or business.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful conversation, and we're going to go ahead and move on. Any other comments, questions, concerns, appreciations? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pass this around. Jojo?
Okay, so this has to do with the Christchurch that we're potentially talking about having a contract with. I did notice that they are a member of the Anglican Church of North America. And the Anglican Church of North America, they specifically so they are not part of that, what is it, the other conference, the large one over in England. They did form their own, which is the Global Anglican Future Conference in the US. However, in their value section, they specifically state that, marriage is between a man and a woman. They have a lot of language about it being sacred. They have a lot of anti-LGBT language in general, a lot of very anti-trans language. Now, I'm not saying this church specifically is an issue, but they do endorse it. They do endorse all these articles on a national level. And my concern would be myself as a trans person, as an intersex person, as a member of the LGBT community, other LGBT members here. If we're here during Sunday and they happen to be around, my concern is how are they going to treat members of our, community here? Just because if they've got this kind of open rhetoric, that doesn't really vibe with what we preach, what we practice here. And it's honestly a concern of mine.
Thank you. Would it be appropriate to maybe pitch to the rabbis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rabbi Ben or Rabbi Sarah.
Gonna kill myself here. Okay, so I spoke with Father Juan, who is the pastor of Christ Church Anglican. He knows 100% that our trans Jews belong here is going to stay. They know 100% that they are doing worship services here. They are not to hold any sort of other meetings, so on and so forth, here as well. He had no qualms whatsoever with the fact that this is a welcoming community to LGBTQ people. I can't speak for the Anglican Church. There's plenty of history there, but I can speak to what is going to happen in this building. And in this building, it will be a friendly place for LGBTQ, Jews or otherwise. And that is something that I am willing to personally ensure gets enforced. Not sure what else to say because I can't help Christian theology, unfortunately. I wish I could fix it. I really do. But that's the assurance that I can make while in this building. Tova.
Perhaps on that end, can you speak briefly to some of our right to terminate the contract clauses that we have?
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna mention that you said that there was wording, or in the board meeting, there's
So we
wording
have a 60-day termination where at will, we can just tell them you're out in 60 days. And they need us more than we need them, despite the deficit numbers that you saw. So we are not going to hesitate to protect this space. And also, you know me, we are not going to hesitate to protect this space.
We also had there was the interfaith I understand they're an interfaith member, but we had an interfaith conference, what was it, back in 18 or 19 over in the social hall. And there was a person who was invited there who was very much engaging in anti-gay rhetoric until I stood up and spoke. So just because they're part of an interfaith commission doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to share our values.
Agreed, but I think the thing that we need to make sure is that our building is used for our mission, right? At this point, our mission is to reach out to this small group of 20 people and give them a space where they can worship in safety and security and with regularity. If we find that that is not something that is working out for our community, then again, we have clauses to deal with that. But I think the issue, so the breaking the stained glass ceiling was the thing that y'all were mentioning. We brought her on there. She was an LDS woman, and we brought her on there to show the many different women in religion. We are not renting to an LDS church. This is a mainline Protestant church. And I think that we need to just remember that this is our building, and that they are our guests. And I don't know that we should see them as a threat because they may have problematic theology.
They also would like to see us become Christian, even if they don't talk about it. That's
Sure.
Deep in there, maybe not so deep in there.
Sure, but I don't think so. Andrew's point was that Christians want us to become Christian. I don't think we can work out the world religion problems between Christianity and Judaism here. I do think that it strengthens us when we have Christians who are invested in our safety and security, and when Christians know who we are and can talk about us with less ignorance. So that is 100% in keeping with our mission. And I think we need to recognize that we are the big congregation here and that they are our guests, and that it's important to not write geopolitics onto our agreement with a small 20-person congregation who is looking for a place to land. Yeah, okay.
And who could say no to Christians bringing bacon home to Jews?
They will be abiding by our kashrut policy. They're thrilled about abiding by our kashrut policy. Yeah.
Speaking of that policy, I'm assuming that they're not going to be
It will be in our space for as long as their worship service is, and then it will be back into their cabinet. Yep.
You got to remember that this is not new for temples, and this is not new for churches. There is times, and there's still temples that worship in churches and do bring their Torahs there and do that. So interfaith is very important in that process, and it is important. When I started going to the temple up in South Lake Tahoe, I went to a church to go to temple for many, many years until that temple by Yom was built. So this does go both ways.
We were welcomed by the Catholic Church for, I don't know how many years, for our High Holy Day.
Yep.
They went out of their way to make their building nice to us.
Yeah, as Dave just pointed out, for many, many, many years, we did not have the space for high holidays. Our high holidays were at a Catholic church, and they went out of their way to make that space as well abided to our principles at that time. So, yeah, we've had Christian churches meet here and rent space from us before.
They're not in the sanctuary, they're in the social.
Yeah, it's all in the social hall.
I don't want to really sound like a Pollyanna, but maybe our modeling might be a very positive reflection.
Just as Gail said, our modeling on how to coexist in this world is very important. And as the rabbis and I have met with this group a few times and been in person with them, we've had no concerns at all about their theology, this group's theology, what their purpose is, what their mission is. They want to be part of our family. When it comes to mitzvah days, they said, let us know, we'll be there to help. They want to be part of a lot of what we do also. They want to, if we have a fundraising event, they want to know, they want to help out. So I think this is going to be a great partnership and a great process moving forward.
And we'll keep an eye.
And, yep. Yeah, Michael. Okay. Are we okay to move on from that at this point? Okay. Michael.
So I'm relative, my family.
It helps for everybody, anybody who may have a hearing.
Of course, and the Zoom people all have a hearing deficit as far as this is concerned. Yeah, so I just wanted to say, my family's new here. And we moved from a big city to a big little city in the middle of the pandemic, and we really love the welcome we've received here from everyone. As someone who came from a congregation with a lot more people to a congregation with a lot less people, though I grew up in a town much like this in New Zealand with a congregation much like this, so I'm no stranger to it. One of my biggest concerns has always been critical mass, and as we can see in the budget, right, critical mass is extremely important. I would like to, this is sort of a broader conversation, but I'm very keen on the idea of trying to generate more critical mass by doing more things with a conservative congregation. It seems like in many ways there's a real, not just like a divide of style, but also like a divide of age. Like all the kids are here. The Sinai school is here, which, by the way, Rabbi Sarah, your Sinai school is amazing. You're doing just an incredible job with my 7-year-old. But I'd just like to have a conversation about how much more we can do to work together with a conservative synagogue to do things that have a larger critical mass to them. It's not really a specific question to the board. It's just a general question to the congregation.
Well, and thank you so much. And that is an effort that I just wanted to acknowledge the comment and say thank you. Certainly as a board, that is something that we do bring up and send our wishes toward. sometimes it's a conversation about where some of those challenges are, but it's very encouraging to hear that directly from the congregation, that any thoughts and desires we have in that direction are supported. So thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, and to hook on to what Michael just added to our conversation, we are taking steps. We have put ourselves out there. We've had a couple of great events with Temple Emmanuel over this past year and a half, and we look forward to many more events. We are currently in conversation with Temple Emmanuel, with their president, to look at what can we do to combine our Sinai School program with theirs, and to broaden our approaches with that. So we are working on, it's baby steps, because there's a lot of history there, but little by little, I have a lot of conversations with Alan over there. He is the president currently, and I'm a member, so I could point out my dislike, but yeah, and Alan's a member here, but we've been working on that relationship. It's not an easy go. Every conversation is a huge conversation, bringing up many bad memories, but we keep trying to look forward, not looking back, to remedy that.
I just want to welcome. I've been here since '82. I know.
I've been here since '82 as well, on this planet.
We do. New Zealand. But I think the underlying question you were asking, tell me if I'm incorrect, but how do we expand our membership in our temple? And I don't know if that's what you were addressing, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands of unaffiliated Jews in our community. And that is something we've talked about in the past as our temple. And when you see the high holidays, you really see it. But I think the last estimate I remember is 9,000 unaffiliated Jews in the area. And that really is a difficult and interesting question, how to attract them. We have so much that we offer here. It's remarkable. And that's really, I think, the thing that we can address. And that's our approach.
How can we get all the unaffiliated Jews to be, more engaged? And the other one is, I just don't think we can afford to have major arguments within this Jewish community, given how few affiliated Jews in the two synagogues combined there are, right? It's one of those, we all hang together, we all hang separately.
Just two quick comments here. Number one, I know our rabbis are constantly reaching out over there. It's a two-way street, though. They're making the best inroads possible because it is important to our Jewish community that we both do well. The other thing is, just to touch, Mara Langer is a part of Jewish Nevada, as they have brought a presence to Northern Nevada. And in past conversations with her, it is very important to her to try to find events, social events, that is open to all Jews, regardless of any affiliation or zero affiliation, and trying to attract Jewish people to just have something to do with other Jewish people. So that is high on her priority, and she's, reaching out and trying to see how to make these things happen that would be more attractive too.
There's an Aces game.
Yeah, if you've not yet bought your ticket for Jewish Heritage Night at the Reno Aces, this would maybe be an appropriate moment to do so. We'll do Addie and then the online comment.
So just real quick, one of the things that is upcoming that everybody should know about is that in November, there is going to be a Jewish Film Festival that is a collaboration between Emmanuel, Sinai, and Hillel. Also, I won't be here because next Sunday is my last day and I drive away. However, the new Hillel director will be very focused on inclusion with the synagogues for the students, and they're probably the lowest hanging fruit. So when you guys see college students, invite them to come to shul, no matter where that shul happens to be.
As a side, and then we have an online comment that's waiting.
So also, like, I'm part of the Hillel group. I go to UNR. And one of the things we also did, if anyone here is not already familiar, we started a branch of Keshet, which is a national Jewish LGBT org that's focused on community education, support, resources, that kind of thing. So we actually started a club at UNR in the spring that kind of works hand in hand with Hillel. And so we've been trying to bring members here. We've been bringing more members here. And part of what we want to do in the summer is start doing community-wide events and try to bring some of the broader LGBT Jewish community here, because it's actually quite large, but they've been pretty disenfranchised for a while. And no fault of necessarily anybody here. It's just been an ongoing issue within our community. And, you know, bringing those kind of people in, also, like, we're going to be working, we'll have our own booth at Pride. And then I think that integration here, along with better integration with Hillel, is a huge untapped resource.
Okay. We have an online comment that we are coming to.
So the comment online was asking whether the local church that is renting from us supports the national church's anti-LGBT plus policy. And my comment is that I will have a conversation with Father Juan and I will find out directly and let everybody know.
Okay, is this another new comment?
Two real quick comments. For those of you that enjoyed the Seder, next year we will have a new director or committee chair. Thank you. Sheila Sirkin, who is going to be the sisterhood chairman, is going to be the Seder chairman. He's in your directory. Call her and volunteer. She needs a new committee. Please. Secondly, I've never needed a mic. Next Sunday is Addie's last day. We all owe her a thanks, not just for Hillel, Sunday school teaching, and all the stuff that she doesn't get credit for.
Yeah.
Big goodbye to Addie.
Oh, thank you. For anyone who missed it when the microphone cut off, that was an invitation for new volunteers for the Passover Seder Committee under new leadership next year, and a very heartfelt goodbye and appreciation to Addie Garfield.
When does the Seder committee start to work? Like how many months?
After new board was elected.
In practice, like when does it heat up?
Okay, another online comment that we're going to take.
Sharon Chabro wants everyone to know that Mara Langer and the Jewish Council of Northern Nevada, who are our Jewish Nevada people, are planning a Jewish Fest, which will happen on September 18th. Don't panic, it's not in the middle of the high holidays, it's before the high holidays. The high holidays are very late this year. And we would love to have everyone's volunteer spirit to help make that a success. It's happening here at the McKinley Arts Center, I believe.
This is the first announcement. You get the hot scoop.
Yes, that is the first announcement. The conversation's been going back and forth. More details will come. It'll be on our website. I need to move this way. It'll be on our website, and more information will come out as soon as it's all available and all the plans are set. Okay, any other comments? Any appreciations? Anyone? Mike?
Thank you. I've been a member here for 16 years. When my wife and I moved to Reno, and it constantly amazes me that this is the 16th meeting that I have been to for this, annual meeting, and it constantly amazes me what is accomplished by our synagogue, what is accomplished by our rabbis, what's accomplished by the president of the congregation and what the board does. So you have my deep, deep praise and admiration. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mike. It does take a team. It's a big team effort to keep this going. Any other comments? Anything else? Anything online? Amy Goldberg says, thank you for everyone for what they do. And thank you to Amy for what she does. Does a lot for us. Okay, with that, I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you for your time. I know we got started a little late. We went a little late, but appreciate everyone's time. Love seeing you here. Feel free to stay around and talk to each other and have fun. Thank you.